Hiya. I'm going to go through some tips today for if your makeup is separating, or in particular if it's coming off the end of your nose. I feel like that's a really common one and it's quite easily resolved. So I'm going to start with the Kiehl's hydroplumping serum. Now my skin is dry to the touch, and this is a kind of, I've shown you this before I think, but it's a very sheer kind of gel. This kind of texture in particular, if you have dry skin, is great for under your makeup, because I'm actually going to use another pump of this today because my skin is just so dry. If your skin is dehydrated or dry, it will try and absorb any moisture it can get from your foundation, which then makes the foundation go patchy because it's essentially sucking the life out of this lovely base that you've put on. Whereas I'm going to give my skin a drink with this serum. It's very hydrating, but also because it's a gel texture, it doesn't feel thick. That is the perfect kind of thing that you want to look for under your makeup. By all means, lots of different gels will do that same job. If you're looking for something in boots, the likes of hydroluron comes to mind, very similar thing, but just look for that texture in whichever brand you're using. Now, I'm going to go in with a primer just because if you're finding that this is happening a lot, I think it can't hurt to try. I'm going to use the It Cosmetics Your Skin But Better primer. Sorry, I've got a little itch. This is oil-free, and I think the great thing with that is if you're someone that's noticing in particular the T-zone becoming a little bit oily, it's nice to know that you've got that added layer of something to help to hold your makeup in place that isn't adding excess moisture as such. Now this one literally says it's a makeup gripping base. I think for me, by the way, sorry, before I go on, I'm just going to say I'm only going to use this in areas where I notice the separation, not all over. For me, the reason I don't tend to often use primers is because I think sometimes people just assume you need this extra step and it's an extra expense for your makeup bag. And I think a lot of the time you can solve the problem another way. Say, for example, I would always rather use something really hydrating under my makeup and try and prevent it from rubbing off that way. However, if you are going to use a primer, and some of them are fantastic, find one that specifically does what you want it to do. So say for the likes of keeping your makeup in place on your nose and areas that it's separating, this is perfect because it's designed to grip makeup. Whereas if I was having a bit of a dull skin day and I needed luminosity and brightness, I'd go for the Becca First Light Priming Filter because that one is really designed to add that luminosity. Now, in terms of my skin, I've noticed I'm quite red at the moment. I'm speaking to quite a few people who are noticing their redness has flared up. I'm just for a change going to use the Ordinary Serum Foundation. You know I love my It Cosmetics foundations, but I'm also very aware that at this time in particular, you might not have £30 to throw at, you know, this redness and this problem. Whereas that is £6 and I think it does a brilliant job. The serum foundation that I'm going to go in with here, as you can see from those first sweeps, it does give a generous amount of coverage. But what I would say is I would potentially think of your concealer or something else that you have that's a bit more coverage that you might want to just press over, especially where that redness is showing through. Now I'm going to take a nice little layer of this all over. I'm using an It Cosmetics Complexion Perfection brush. It's glittery because it's from Christmas a few years ago, but if you've seen this brush or you have this brush, it does exactly the same job. This is just like the fancy makeover version. I'm going to take a little bit across my eyelids, just the excess from the brush. And then for a moment, I'm pressing a little bit of excess on that redness. I know this isn't quite my shade, but I've put a bit of tan on, and I actually personally quite like to go for something a bit more golden than me because it helps to counteract the redness, I think. Okay, I'm going to let that sit there for a moment, and I'm going to do a really simple, quick kind of a pinky smoky eye. This was, I'm so sorry, I've written pinky smoky eye in my phone And I forgot to write a name, but someone said the other day, can I do all pinks? And I thought, love it. So this is the Bobbi Brown Shadow Stick in Sand Dune. And I'm going to take this all over the lid, first of all. This is a matte shade. I'm going to take a clean It Cosmetics Nota creaser and just buff the edge of this out and fluff it upwards. Now, if you saw my video the other day, it's a few videos back, it was about eyeshadow tips in particular for a hooded eye shape. I used a Bobbi Brown shadow stick in taupe, and a few people said in the comments that they'd looked at it online and it was a completely different colour. Full disclosure, some of my makeup is years old, because, you know, I've done makeup for a long time, I've just got it all in a kit, and I sometimes, you know, rummage and find things I haven't used in ages. So I'm sorry if it was. It's not that I've got some new fancy thing. It's actually quite the opposite. I've probably got one that's been knocking around for God knows how long. So this is the Sand Dune. I've tried to do this makeup in the light, and I think it's so incredibly light that it's almost very bright and hard to see. But anyway, I've just completely, see, I'm distracted. The top tip I gave you the other day is do one eye at a time and buff it out so that it doesn't dry before you've blended it. And there we go, I've just completely gone against my own advice. But it just goes to show that's why we practice these things every day, because eventually they'll go in. Okay, while that's still tacky and I've gone right the way up the lid, I'm gonna take a little bit of, where have I put it? MAC Cranberry. I've been meaning to use this for ages. I absolutely love this shadow. It's a really lovely plummy pink. It is just essentially the shade of a cranberry, I suppose. And I'm going to take this all over the lid, and then I'll return to that blending brush to just soften the edges. Now, if you're looking for something subtle, for a nice wintry kind of berry colour, this makes every eye colour pop. In particular, if you have green eyes, you are going to absolutely love this colour on you. It's so, so pretty. But as you can see, you can get quite a soft finish from it if you wish. And then if you did want to blend it up and create something super smoky, you can do that as well. But I just think this is nice for giving you a little kiss of that kind of winterberry finish. I'm going to go in with a maroon eyeliner. This is the Peaches War Paint. Let me see if I've got a little mirror. I'll use one of these compacts here so I can look down into it. A little bit of war paint so that everything is this nice kind of maroony, creamy colour. And I'm going to take a tiny bit of this. Oh, I beg your pardon. Now taking a tiny bit of it along the waterline. I'm going to take a tiny bit of it along the tight line, just to really frame that whole thing. Now, I know that looks a bit pink, but stay with me. I'm going to take some of the cranberry on a pointed brush under this waterline. And then when I go in with my mascara, I'm going to really add some definition so that you can see that this is all intentional and doesn't just look sore, which quite frankly, it does a little bit at the moment. Let's build a bit more cranberry. And I want it to look intentionally plummy and not just, have you got a bit of a sore eye there? Now again, I'm packing it on with this flat brush. It's not even terribly even. And then I'm going to blend it out using the soft blender brush. And with a little bit of perseverance and patience, this should hopefully fall into place. How much time have I got? I've hit the 10-minute mark. That should be where I begin to panic. So I'm going to stop faffing about and leave it here. I'm going to go in with some Hourglass tubing mascara. I'm not sure if you will have seen yesterday, I put a video up about tubing mascara and how it's really good to switch to if you're finding that your mascara prints. Essentially, normal mascara coats your lashes in pigment, and then, you know, you wash it off at the end of the day and it's kind of like a paint that you put in on your lashes. Tubing mascara coats them in these rubbery polymers. The best way I can describe it to you is, you know, like when you're little and you get PVA glue on your hand and it crumbles away. That's kind of like the technology that this uses. And what it means is it's really easy to remove because it'll crumble away just with warm water. But because it's these little plastic polymers and it's not actually a paint or a pigment, it's not going to press and smudge. So this Hourglass is an example of a tubing mascara. The Trish McAvoy Volume Mascara is tubing. There's loads. The Clinique one is fantastic. I had that a few years ago. But just Google tubing mascara and you're going to find loads of options. Okay, see, that now, as always, we have these moments of how the hell is that makeup going to pan out, and I'm feeling better. I'm going to skip my brows because I think I'm going to run out of time, brush them up a little bit, and now I'm going to go back to sealing this makeup in place for the day. So I'm going to take some translucent powder all over. This is really key if you're noticing that your makeup is separating or if it's moving or not lasting. In particular, I want you to powder the T-zone or wherever it is on you that you're noticing this separation. And then, in particular with the end of your nose, two things. First of all, I want you to consider applying more product just to that area. And second of all, consider using a matte texture. For example, right, this is the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. This is matte in texture, and you may wish to just press a little bit more, preempt where that is going to break or come off, and add a little bit more to it. In terms of your setting powder, I used a translucent powder there. If it's particularly red that's showing through, I really recommend the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Redness. It looks like your foundation, but it will sit on top of it and help to give that coverage. Or you may wish to use a powder foundation to set it in and add a bit more coverage as you're setting it. I'm going to use a little bit of bronzing powder to finish this look off. One of the things I would really urge you to just have a little look at, if in particular your nose or there's other areas like the chin or the centre of the face that your makeup is coming off an awful lot, are you touching your nose and not realising? The amount of people that I've spoken to that kind of make the conscious effort not to do that, and that can actually be huge. You might not realise that you're rubbing your nose a lot, or you might be sitting at your desk and going halfway through the day. Those things are going to touch your makeup and help them not to stay put. And I'm going to use a really gentle touch, by the way, with any following products. I want to warm up an even more of a flush, so I'm going to go in with a little bit of cream contour on the same IT Cosmetics brush. That can be huge in helping you to keep everything in place. By all means, try a little setting spray as well, if you think that will be helpful. And what was the other one I was going to say about keeping it on all day? But yeah, don't forget to just layer a bit more wherever you're noticing the problem. And just, oh, that was another thing. I think one of the things that we're misled by in this kind of marketing spiel that we see on our products is all day, this, that, the other, it's going to last all day. I think the truth is, to have a completely flawless base all day, there is a level of touching up that you're going to have to do. And that's absolutely fine, but don't feel bad if it's not lasting and you're wondering what you're doing, because chances are just a little touch up and a little bit more powder will solve it. But anyway, I somehow finished in 15 minutes. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon.